What is up, my friends? How are we? You're very welcome along to today's late night agenda, the last one of the week. Appreciate you guys being here with us tonight. Just before, so everyone knows, I can't bring super chats up on the screen tonight. There's a problem with our back end system. Of course, I can still see them and I will read them out, but just want to put it out there nice and early that I can't get it up on my screen, so we'll have to just do it the old-fashioned way. Appreciate you all being in as always. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you're all well. For some reason, is this even updated? Are we gone through? Are we live? Can somebody give me... Are we live? Because on my end, it still says starting soon, so I'm very confused. Hopefully we are live. It certainly looks like we should be live, so fingers crossed. Hope you're all well. Appreciate you. We are live. Cool. Yeah, it's weird because my system's just shown that I'm starting soon. But if we are live, that's good enough for me. We'll go with that. So yes, loads to get through tonight, ladies and gents. Thank you. We're all good. We're going to be speaking about some of the nonsense that's been in the media over the past 24 hours or so since we've last spoken. We're going to talk about links to the likes of Yildiz of Juventus. We'll talk about that. There's lots to discuss. Mark Guéhi, we're going to speak about Liverpool going all in, according to reports in January for him. So yeah, appreciate you all being in. As I said, thank you for giving up some of your Friday evening to come and have a chat with me. There will be videos coming out over the weekend, but there won't be any live content. This is the last stream until Monday. So whatever you want to get off your chest, the floor is yours. And as I mentioned, I cannot bring super chats up on screen. There we go. It's finally gone live on my end as well. Sweet. Cool. Good. We're all good. So yeah, let's get cracking then. Where do we start off tonight? Well, we get straight into the big story. You know, we'll reward everybody for being in nice and early, excuse me. So, Footy Insider say that Liverpool are ready to go all in or all out to sign Mark Guéhi in January. I very much hope this is true, ladies and gents. You know, we spoke here last night. We asked, do Liverpool need to sign a centre-back in January? And 96%, if I remember correctly, said yes, Liverpool need to get a centre-back in January. And if this piece is right, well, it looks like the target would be Mark Guéhi. But of course, we have to wait for more confirmation on this, and I certainly wouldn't be expecting it as of yet. We're talking tonight about Antoine Semenyo as well, as the competition for his signature races up. We're going to speak about Julian Alvarez and the Premier League club that have been linked with him. We'll hear a little bit from Bournemouth's general manager, and it's really refreshing actually to hear what he has to say. We'll talk about Serge Gnabry as well. But would Mark Guéhi want to move? That, sir, I do not know the answer to. I don't have a clue, bro. All I can remember is there was an interview with Mark Guéhi, and I think this was in the summer, or maybe even before the summer window, where he said that he wouldn't like to move mid-season. I think that exists. But like you said, the meme guy or that meme guy, I don't know, dude. I don't know, and it's a fair question to ask. I think it may come down to Palace. You know, if Palace are willing to allow him to move and he's up for it, happy days. But it's a fair point you've raised. I don't know the answer to it. Either way, I'm gaining in confidence that we do sign Mark Guéhi, whether it's in January or in the summer. But yeah, we need to get somebody in very quickly in January, in my humble opinion. Is Guéhi only being 6 foot an issue? It's another very good question, Dan. You know, we've been talking about Mark Guéhi on the channel on and off now for, I want to say it's probably 2 years. I remember even when I was doing work with David Lynch and we were talking about Mark Guéhi then. The one concern, Dan, as you've rightly raised, is the aerial prowess or lack of with Mark Guéhi. Now look, 6 foot still 6 foot, but it's not 6'3", 6'4". And maybe Liverpool have looked at this situation and think, right, well, we may have a lack of aerial duel success right there, maybe, but maybe they look more consistency with the ball at his feet. I think all in all, when you stack it up, for me, Dan, I would have more pluses in the plus column for Guéhi over Konaté. But as you said, you know, that 6 foot frame or that 6 foot height isn't a Virgil van Dijk or an Ibrahim Konaté. So I guess the club must have brought that into their consideration. Billy said, but if it's for minutes, wouldn't Guéhi start over Konaté for us, like for the World Cup selection? Again, absolutely, Billy. That would be the point you'd be raising to Mark Guéhi, wouldn't it? If you were Liverpool in this conversation, you would be saying to him, "Look, dude, come in, play with us. You'll get those minutes. We need you." And you know, you could end up with a Champions League medal come the end of the season, because that is one big carrot they could dangle in front of Mark Guéhi, the ability to come in and play Champions League football straight away, and the knockout stages of it. Never win again. You're going to have to try harder than that one, dude. You're going to have to try harder than that. I think did I delete the wrong person? I think I may have deleted the wrong comment. 1 second. Yes, sorry. I think I deleted the wrong comment from Alan. Alan, my apologies, mate. That's on me. How tall is Leone was your question. I think he's 6'4". 6'4", Alan. Apologies for deleting your comment, dude. That was a mistake on my part. I think he's about 6'4", mate. Somewhere around that. Like, he's the big dude. He's also surprisingly quite young. Yeah, for somebody as experienced as Mark Guéhi, you're right. What is he now? 24, 25? So, look, it all stacks up for me and it makes sense, but whether it's January or the summer, we're going to have to wait and see. Leone is 6'5", Ollie said Google. Yeah, so as I said, big presence, big young lad. And it's just so unfortunate for him that he picked up that ACL. So, let's talk about Defensa Central, because we're going to have to build another embassy on Bullshit Island, because I think we have a new contender for the prime location. It used to be, we talked about Ficajes and some of the very questionable links coming out of there. Right now, Defensa Central have kind of doubled down on what we spoke about yesterday. So we talked about a story where they said that Liverpool and Real Madrid were interested in a swap, part exchange, whatever you want to say, for Rodrigo and Florian Wirtz. Well, today, they've doubled down a little bit, and this is even more ludicrous than the previous story. So this piece here from Defensa Central said, Real Madrid believe they might be able to lure Florian Wirtz to the Bernabeu next summer in a cut price move. If Wirtz continues to struggle to fit into Liverpool's system, they may cut their losses and sell to the highest bidder. Los Blancos have set an upper limit of €75 million, which is about 62, 63 million pound, for the signing. Let me just put this into context. You're not getting them. You're not getting them anywhere near that price, and you're not getting them. And did I mention you're not getting them? So, they're like, do they have an editor? Is what I'm asking here. Like, does anybody look at this and go, we can't print that? That would destroy our reputation. Obviously not, because they keep coming out with this complete bollocks. And there's so much about this that I disagree with. One, he's not going to fail at Liverpool. He's been here 2 months, or playing competitively 2 months. Cool your jets. And secondly, we want Mbappe, and we've decided, Defensa Central, that we have an upper limit to sign Mbappe of €35 million. So, we're going to make that move. You want to pay 75 million for first. Well, we'll have Mbappe for 35 million. If we're all just coming up with stupid stories, let's talk about that one then. I mean, for the love of God, I don't understand how people write this shit. I don't understand how it gets traction. It's madness. Like, everybody that looks at that story, including, I'm sure, Real Madrid fans, must just look at it and go, what? Come on now. €75 million. Here's the thing that does make me laugh about it. If Real Madrid really were that interested in him, they had a chance in the summer, same as everybody else. They could have talked to him, with Alonso coming in, I'm sure they could have made a good pitch to him. But Liverpool were the ones that convinced Wirtz, and again, I'm speaking for myself, but I have zero doubts that Florian Wirtz is going to make it at Liverpool and be a success. None. It's just a matter of time. So, yeah, let's make sure if you do see these type of reports on social media or whatever, that you let them know how ridiculous these things are, and just laugh at them, because that's all they deserve, basically. Now, while we're in Spain, let's talk about a report from James Pearce of The Athletic. He said Liverpool's owners, Fenway Sports Group, have dropped out of talks to buy Spanish club Getafe, citing issues with the cost of the takeover, coupled with Spain's strict limitations on spending linked to the club's limited revenue, ultimately making the move prohibitive. So it kind of got me wondering, has Michael Edwards failed in this regard? Because he's in, 2 years, roughly, nearly, into his new tenure with FSG. And his remit when he came in, as well as bringing in a sporting director and a manager for Liverpool, was to start the multi-club model with FSG. 2 years down the line here, and they're no closer to even finding the right club to buy, let alone buying it. So what's going on there? It's a very strange situation. It's almost like there's been second thoughts or something about the multi-club model, because, yeah, they've certainly not found one yet. And Getafe, look, I can understand why they said no to the deal. Like, I genuinely can, if they don't think that they can get the club to a level where it can be competitive, or, the spending limits in La Liga are not what they're accustomed to in the Prem or whatever. I get it. But surely you could have figured this out fairly early in the process. This has been kind of rumbling on for a few months now that we've been talking about it on and off. Is it better for us in a way? Yeah, I mean, it's a very good question. And to be fair, you've started off tonight on fire with the chat. You've really great questions. It depends who you talk to, Samat, excuse me. It depends who you talk to, bro, because some people, like me, will feel it's a good thing, and others will feel it's a bad thing for various reasons. Because maybe it takes some of the focus of the owners off our club. Let's say Getafe fans will just feel, are they coming in to be a feeder club? There are pros and cons to it. But I think, personally, there's more pros to it in this day and age. It is seeming to be the done thing now. You've got so many clubs that have relationships or are part of a multi-club model that you kind of risk being left behind. And, one of the problems that Premier League clubs have had is bringing in players from the likes of South America, especially after Brexit. So today, as an example, Chelsea agreed a deal to bring in a 16-year-old, but he has to wait 2 years so he can then come and sign. I can't remember who he was coming in from, but it was somebody over in Brazil, I think. I think it was Ecuador. I think it was the same crowd that Moise Caicedo came from. So if you had a club in Europe, the rules are a bit different. You could bring these guys over at a younger age, or certainly to get them experience in European leagues, and then maybe they'll make the criteria to come in and get a permit to play in the Premier League. So I think it makes sense to me to do it. But like I said, I do understand others that look at the multi-club model and think it might be a distraction or a resource or brain drain even from, those who work for FSG in the footballing side. Thoughts on the Ireland win last night? Look, it was a great win. It was a very good win. Does it mean anything? Probably not. Will we go to Hungary and win at the weekend? Well, I'm not going to be putting any money on it, but it was still a great thing. It was great for the fans who go game in and game out to the Aviva. Great for Irish football. Yeah, just some positives for Irish football fans who haven't had much to shout about over the last few years. Right, let's get cracking because there's so much tonight I wanted to go through. One sec. Sweet. Just get into this. Right, there's an article that really caught my eye there, a piece from an article. Dave O'Seacott posted a bit of a transcript from Bournemouth's general manager speaking about Bournemouth and the way they are as a club. And he said this: when a club like Real Madrid, Liverpool, Paris Saint-Germain come in and they're competing for the Champions League positions, who are we to say, no, you can't go, you can't fulfill your dreams? It wouldn't be like that for all clubs because not everybody is Real Madrid. But there is an opportunity and everybody wins, right? I think that's what we're trying to find, this commonality where everybody can win. And that was speaking on the Business of Sport podcast. And he's right. It is refreshing to see a club like Bournemouth understand, at this moment in time, their place in the football landscape. They have obviously got an eye for talent. They've brought through a lot of great players over the last 6-7 years. Even when they were a championship club, they brought through some very good players. Semenyo, I mean, a lot of us thought Bournemouth were in big trouble this summer when they'd lost the likes of Milos Kerkez, Dean Huijsen, but they just seem to have this eye for talent, and it really does help push their club on if they can get top dollar for these guys when they come through, reinvest that. I mean, let's just look at the left back situation right now. We bought Milos Kerkez off them for 40 million quid, and they've already signed Adrian Truffert, who looks like a very, very adequate replacement. So, yeah, they definitely have an eye for talent. And as I said, it's refreshing to see because so many clubs these days, like Brighton, let's use Brighton as an example. When Brighton are selling a player, they're not just selling the player with the value of now. They're selling a player that they think will be the player's peak value. So Moise Caicedo, as an example, they didn't sell him what they thought Caicedo was worth now. They sold him for the number that they thought he would be worth eventually. So they're projecting and still getting the money. So yeah, it's refreshing to hear this from Bournemouth's general manager, and it'll be interesting to see what does happen there with Antoine Semenyo, because we're not the only club interested, and I'll move on to tell you more about that in a second. Before I do, Brian Morgan, welcome to Anfield Agenda FC again. Appreciate you being back. So let's talk Semenyo for a minute, because there have been a couple of clubs linked with him. This piece here from Sky Sports and Mark McAdam said Liverpool are monitoring Bournemouth forward Antoine Semenyo ahead of the January transfer window, alongside Manchester City and Spurs. I also think Manchester United's name has been mentioned, and Arsenal, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be very interesting to see if we can get him in. Now let me just check. Connor said to me to check the back end system. One sec. Perfect. There we go. Sorry. There we go. It's working now. So I can bring up super chats and stuff on the screen now, thankfully. Our system has rebooted and is now working. So yay on that one. So yeah, can get through all the super chats and stuff now. Happy days, so I can bring them up. Brilliant. Connor's at a concert this evening, and he's still taking time out of his concert to message me to try and help me with this one. Absolute legend. Right, we should approach Bournemouth scouting team. Yeah, look, they're obviously very good at what they do. To be fair, we have gone in and taken Richard Hughes, so, you know, let's small mercies and all that. And also, like, Brighton's team, very good at what they do in talent spotting. Brighton, much like Liverpool, are very data-driven in their scouting. Tech Craig kind of rhymes. Oh, I am shocking, bro. Shocking when it comes to technology. You know, for anybody that doubts maybe Connor's contribution to the success of this channel, don't. I'm an idiot when it comes to tech. We must make a new discipline called Madridonomics, studying how Real Madrid existing clauses brain rotten people and creates real paradoxical effects in football. I like your thinking. Max the Red. I do genuinely like your thinking, because they are a pest in football, mate. They're a pest. Every time you play a Spanish club, and, you know, I know we often get fans from opposing clubs in, so if you're maybe, you know, an Arsenal, a Chelsea fan or whatever, every time you play a Spanish club, it seems like your player or some of your players are linked with that club that week. It just happens over and over and over again. And I can go through probably 5 or 6 players from our first team that have been linked with Real Madrid in the past few months. Maka, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai. I think when Virgil and Salah were potentially on freeze, there were them. Trent, obviously. Now Florian Wirtz. It's ridiculous. And it's sheer arrogance, as somebody in the chat said. Absolutely, Biggie Mall. 100% agree, dude. Absolute arrogance to just think. And another word I throw in, bro. Entitlement. I throw in that word as well. I hate them. I really, really do. Everything that they are in the football landscape pisses me off. Entitled, thinking they're above the rules at times, just shithouses. And yeah, it's a club I just don't have any time for. Never have, never will. They're a successful club. They've won 15 European Cups and God knows how many La Liga titles, but they're never a club that I was in any way fond of. That's because they're Madrid's mouthpiece. So many, Summerpool, you're not wrong. So many of the clubs in Spain, the big ones in particular, do have very, very media-friendly outlets who just do the club's bidding for them, as you've said. And you throw in some of the big social media accounts as well, and they just parrot these opinions and put them out there, like Madrid Extra or whatever they're called. They often highlight these stories as well. And so many people are fed up of it. You know, and I dare say, whatever club you support, you've got your own story about Real Madrid. Like Arsenal fans, before Saliba signed his new deal, we're having to look at, you know, Saliba being linked. It's just, yeah, it's so frustrating, because you know 99% of it is nonsense. Sonder said, what chance do we have to win the Champions League? Premier League's done in my eyes. Feel we have a different aura in the Champions League and that you don't need to be at your best to win it. I would agree with you that it's probably, well, FA Cup aside, it's certainly the one of the two big ones on there. That's far more achievable for us this year. I don't think we have a chance to win the Prem at this moment in time. Even if we start to turn things around, it's still a long, long way to pull back 8 points. But it's not impossible. So yeah, I'm with you though. Champions League. I feel like we're going to get through the league format and into the knockout stages. It's just a matter of if we can get into the top 8 or not. And I think we will. After that, if you can peak at the right time, there's a break usually then till about February, if I'm not mistaken, in the Champions League. And we've seen Paris Saint-Germain last year have an iffy start, just about make it through the league format and then go on to win it. So if we can hit form and, injuries allowing at the right time, definitely feel like it's not out of the realms of possibility. They're now saying they're going to get Haaland. Before it was Saliba and Wirtz, and they even wanted Mo, Virgil and Rodri. They're spoiled rats who already want Xabi out and arrogant players hate them. Said more forever football. So I remember, and I highlight this all the time, dude. I remember when they signed Eden Hazard from Chelsea. €100 million signing. And at his unveiling, I'm not joking, you can probably find the images online. At his unveiling, there were people in the audience or in the crowd putting up signs saying, "We want Mbappe." You're just after unveiling a €100 million player. And at that point, Eden Hazard was hot property in world football. Like, probably, the prime part of his career there, just done really well at Chelsea. And they were holding up signs saying, "We want Mbappe." That's the entitlement and the arrogance of some of their fans and that club in general. It's crazy. But I don't understand why players keep going there either. Because they're unforgiving in their criticisms. We often hear about pundits in the Premier League and how difficult it is. I honestly think the English pundits and media are tame compared to other countries. Like, ask Virgil what the Dutch media has been like to him when things don't go well. Or, go over and watch American sports if an NFL team isn't doing well. The pundits and media are not shy about calling it out. So, yeah, I'd like to see a bit more calling out of Madrid's behaviour, but we know they won't because they're a powerful club. I would take Semenyo. Would love to see Elise in a Liverpool shirt. Elise has to be the prime target, right? If you were to sit down right now, start to plan for life without Mo in the future and talk about a potential replacement, you'd have to have Elise near the top of your list. And I'm sure we aren't alone. I'm sure, lots of clubs fans would single out him for a position in their team. But Don Hutchinson, former Liverpool player, speaking with Team Talk, said something that I think we're all going to agree with. He said, so the uncomfortable conversation is around why and how you don't get Salah into that team anymore. Perhaps the Africa Cup of Nations would be the time to try it. And I spoke about this all week. We are going to have to get to that point now where we look to the future and we can't just keep building things around Salah. And Don isn't wrong when he says the African Cup of Nations will give us the opportunity to do that. And it will give Ireland the ability to do that without the pressure on his shoulders or without the media bigging up the idea of Salah being dropped or benched. But the real question, I think, comes in what happens if we do well when he's at the AFCON. Will the manager have the ability, support, balls to continue to go without Salah? Or will he just go back? So let's just say, as an example, we tweak the system and we end up playing with 2 up top and a number 10 behind. Will he then revert as soon as Mo comes back? Because if he does, that's a worrying sign, because Mo isn't going to be here forever and it's not working this season for everybody. So find a way for it to work and then let him earn a spot back in. That's the way I'd look at it. Or perhaps Mo goes to the AFCON, we look even worse, and we're all sitting here saying, shit, can't wait for Mo to get back, counting down the minutes. That could absolutely happen as well. But it's certainly going to give the manager a chance to do it without some of the scrutiny. That meme guy said, it's reality because Salah is on the older side and we need a future squad and it will be sad, happy tears when he leaves. Definitely. Like, it is, as Don said, it's the uncomfortable conversation, isn't it? Because in one breath, you're being fair in saying the team might need some altering now, some young blood, some changes. But in another, you want to be respectful to a man who has been nothing short of incredible for our football club. But football is ruthless, and I keep saying Father Time is unbeaten. LFC Spectre said we need to build a team around Wirtz and Isak for this new era. We have 4 fullbacks. If we sign Guéhi in January and keep Ibu, we have Gomez plus Endo and Grav, who plays centre-back. Look, Endo, I don't really consider Endo as a starter at any point. I just don't. I'm going to be honest about that. I see him as somebody to come in and fill a few minutes here or there, close out a game, and that's cool. He knows that's his squad role. If we sign Guéhi in January but keep Ibu, well, I'd say we are going to keep Ibu at least till the end of the season. You know, maybe if he signs a new deal, obviously it'll be longer. So, and Gomez, I feel like Gomez will be the one that goes at the end of the season. Obviously, we can't say for sure right now what happens with Ibu and his contract extension, but I do feel like it's far more likely that we sell Gomez in the summer. But who plays between now and the end of the season? Look, right now, I would say if you ask Liverpool fans, if we sign Mark Guéhi and we're playing with 2 centre-backs, I think most of us would say, actually, do you know what? Let's ask. Let me first say, Tanya, thank you for gifting a membership. Tanya Wheatley, much appreciated. And Mr. Bransfield said, my dad's birthday's in 2 weeks. Would like to give him package. So, again, the part I'm struggling with, mate, is the autograph bit. Because I feel really weird sending somebody an autograph. It just feels so weird. But can I ask you a favour? Because I've most likely lost the email. Can you email me and I will get it out to you? I'll get it in the post before Wednesday. I've a promise to you. I'll get it in the post before Wednesday. So if you could just email contact@Anfield Agenda again, give me your email or give me your postal address. I promise you, I will get it out by Wednesday. No excuses. I'm in the wrong. I should have got something out to you sooner, as I did promise. So, yeah, just, again, if you could email us again, dude, I'll get that sorted out for you. And I want to wish your dad a happy birthday as well. So maybe a birthday card is the easiest way now to put a signature on something, right? Because it feels more natural. Right, anyway, what was I going to do? Poll. Let's go. Right, so who would partner VVD in a pair? Guéhi or Konaté? I want to just see, if we signed him in January, who you think partners Van Dijk straight away? Would it be Mark Guéhi or would it be Konaté? I'm sorry, Craig, for asking so many times. Mate, you've nothing to be sorry about. You have done absolutely... This is on me. I'm the one that should be apologising, because I did say to you I would do it and I haven't done it yet. So you've nothing to apologise for. And I appreciate you reminding me. So please don't feel that you need to apologise for anything. Sonder said, is it bad that I only want a 6'2" plus centre-back? Guéhi 6 foot. No, I can see where you're coming from. Totally can. Like, it was one of the things, like I said, that was in the negative column when we had these initial conversations around signing him 2 years ago. I don't know if maybe the trend in football is changing a bit, or if maybe Arnott might feel, or the club might feel, that aerial prowess isn't the be-all and end-all anymore. Because what you do get with Mark Guéhi, albeit a slightly smaller height frame, is a more composed centre-back, and I think more leadership than Konaté would bring. So I'm sound with it, to be honest. But I get where you're coming from as well. Have you seen the KMI new Craig calling out the PGMOL? So what's the KMI? Is that the Premier League match places? Might maybe explain the KMI thing to me, but I'm going to read out what I think you're referring to. So you and I and everybody else knew Virgil van Dijk's goal should have stood. We had Dermot Gallagher on Sky Sports Ref Watch jumping through mental gymnastical hoops to try to find a way to justify the shit show that was his goal being ruled out. You also had Howard Webb slithering his way onto the mic'd up show to tell us about it being not unrealistic that the goal was ruled out. Well, I think you mean key match incidents panel. I think I've copped what you finally mean now, mate. Key match incidents panel. So yes, if you haven't seen it, there has now been an official ruling on that, and I will read it out to you now. Where is it? This one. So, Virgil van Dijk's goal for Liverpool against Manchester City on Sunday would have tied the score at 1-1, should have stood according to the Premier League's key match incidents panel. So again, wrong decision made in a massive game, top of the table type clash that Liverpool have been screwed on. And we were all told to just calm down. You know, we were told once again that it's conspiracy theory stuff to think that Michael Oliver has fucked us. I mean, thoughts now? Because, look, if you want to just get to the point where the only way you think people being critical is that they're all conspiracy theorists who think that there's corruption going on, you're going to the extreme. Most people, myself included, feel like it's not an accident that Michael Oliver is at the scene of the crime over and over again. I'm not trying to say he's taken backhanders. I'm not trying to say anything other than it can't keep happening, but it does keep happening. Why that is, I couldn't possibly say. I'd be guessing. But what I do know is it happens way too much. It happened when we played Arsenal. It happened when we played City and Doku was kicking McAllister in the chest. Every time there's a 50-50 show, when Michael Oliver is either reffing or on VAR, he finds a way to screw us. And the audio from the VAR incident, it annoys me because they play it, you have people talking about it, but nobody talked about the fact that the linesman said, I think he was interfering with the goalkeeper. I think he was offside. I think. And then Oliver goes, oh yeah. Looking at it, oh yeah. Big massive hard on him, loving Pep. Big Pep Guardiola poster on the wall most likely. Oh yes. Like Churchill the dog. And he couldn't wait to rule it out quick enough. Couldn't wait to. No interest in asking the ref to look at a subjective decision because it was subjective. It wasn't a clear-cut thing. Piss take. And yet again, we've been shafted by Michael Oliver. Look, we may not have won that game. City were the better team. But it needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed. Because we can't keep being told we're imagining this shit when the evidence, empirical evidence, is fucking there to tell you that some referees, whether consciously or subconsciously, are shafting certain teams. It isn't a Liverpool problem. It's an everyone problem. Because we're here talking about Oliver as Liverpool fans. I'm sure I could talk to Chelsea about Anthony Taylor and they'd have similar stories. I'm sure I could talk to United fans about Michael Oliver. In fact, I have. It just can't keep happening. Yeah, it can't keep happening. They need to actually address this and talk about it and stop putting anybody that complains about it in this box of conspiracy theorists. Because you would have said the same to us about Michael or about David Coote. And I think when David Coote's persona, his makeup was looked at, it was found he was a dodgy fucker. Let's be honest. You don't go to court and be charged with stuff without being a dodgy fucker. So this belief that Neville and many others would have us, that all these referees are just doing their damn best and are out there with no preconceived notions, is absolute bollocks. It just is. This human nature will tell you. Like, there are people that you all work with that you get on with because you have to, but really, you don't like them. And if it came to a decision between them and somebody you do like, you're going to take somebody you do like. You just are. It's human nature. So to believe that referees aren't either subconsciously or consciously favouring or not favouring a team is unrealistic. It's especially in a country as small as England. Like, it's not like the USA where you could have somebody from the West Coast refereeing on the East Coast who has no family members or maybe no preconceived notions. It's just so silly. It needs to be addressed and it needs to be talked about like adults. First law of Madridonomics: every pundit must excuse any and all behaviour if it is to Real Madrid's benefit because it's Real Madrid. Insert brown nosing. I don't disagree, dude. I don't disagree. Look, I think other football club fans in Spain have probably got a lot more stories about the favouring of Madrid and the refereeing and the decisions and the bailouts and the financial stuff. So I don't disagree. Sign me up for the Madridonomics, mate. Sign me up. Sonder said, my eyes lit up when I saw that we were linked with Joel Ordonez, the centre-back that plays for Club Brugge. So good in this year's Champions League and only 20. He's certainly a talent and somebody worth keeping an eye on, Sonder, because Liverpool, as you rightly said, have been linked with Joel Ordonez. I don't know all that much about him. I've seen him play for Club Brugge in the Champions League, and like you, he impressed me. But, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert on him. But yeah, how do you feel about the refereeing as fans? And look, I know we have people who aren't Liverpool fans in the chat, so give me any example that you guys have of your own club being shafted, because that's what this is. And when you say it, when I sit here and say Michael Oliver shafted us, the initial reaction to people is, well, you're trying to make excuses for not winning the game. No, I'm not. City deserve to win the game. I've no problem saying that. But it doesn't mean that two things can't be right. It doesn't mean that City weren't the better team, but he still shafted us. Because remember, at this moment, it was potentially 1-1. And who knows? Who knows what happens at that point? But it didn't. And we got shafted. Again, we got shafted at Spurs. We got shafted with Odegaard's handball. We got shafted with Doku getting McAllister in the chest with his boot. All those things shafted us. But we keep being told they're subjective decisions. But yet everyone seems to come against us in these big games. These big top-of-the-table clashes. England is very tribal, even away from football. North versus south, county versus county, east of a city versus west. Can't be impartial here. Exactly. And if you can't have that conversation, that at least potentially these things might exist, you're on a hiding to nothing. I think it's going to have to get to the point where referees are brought in from Europe. I think it has to get to that point because there's too much at stake now. There's too much money in the game. There's too much risk in the game. These referees, and especially with adding in VAR, it's just opened it up even more to the possibility of potential manipulation. And it stinks. It fucking stinks. Anthony said, leave the PGMOL before the PGMOL leaves you. There is more corruption in referees' decision making nowadays. JT Cliff said, Craig, the level of refereeing in the Premier League has not been fit for purpose since 2018. Paul Owen said, Craig, Man United fans have been saying the same thing about refs and VAR as well. I know, mate, I talked to so many different clubs fans, either in the chat here or on Discord. We have a couple who are non-Liverpool fans in there, or mates of mine. And you're right. This isn't just me saying refs aren't good enough, or you as a Liverpool fan saying it. It's just clear at this point. So when are they going to do something about it? When are we actually going to have some accountability for these? All we get told is, oh, the tough jobs. Referees have a tough job. Nobody's ever said they don't. Nobody said the refs don't have a tough job. But some of this just fucking stinks. And it really, really winds me up. Right. I want to talk about something different for a second, but feel free to let me know because I'm going to read through more of your comments. I was watching a segment on Sky earlier on, and they had two journalists on. I don't know it was Ollie Kay and James, I can't remember, maybe Horncastle. I can't remember who the other journalist was. But they wrote a book, and the book was The 100 Greatest Footballers of All Time. I don't know if anybody's seen this, but the top 5 was really interesting. So the top 5, and they did this, they had input from multiple journalists across the Athletic and I think across the football landscape, and they compiled this list and this book. And number 5 on the list of greatest footballers of all time was Cristiano Ronaldo. He was 5th on the list. Number 4 on the list was Johan Cruyff. Number 3 on the list was... Who was number 3 actually? Shit. Fuck, I can't remember who number 3 was. Who was number 3 on the list? Can't remember. Number 2 on the list was Diego Maradona, and number 1 on the list was Lionel Messi. And it was really interesting because it was good to see a whole heap of journalists look at it and come to the conclusion that Messi was better than Ronaldo. Because I've been trying to say that for years. He definitely is. And I don't think it's even a debate. But in this book, yes, Pele was 3. That was the one. LFC Spectre, thank you. Yeah, so it was Cristiano Ronaldo at number 5, Johan Cruyff at number 4, Pele at number 3, Maradona at number 2, and Lionel Messi at number 1. Now, for me, I would flip Messi and Maradona in my mind, and it might be just a hindsight thing, or a romantic thing from when I was growing up watching Maradona. You know what a fan of Messi I am, so I'm fine either one or 2. But it was interesting to see Ronaldo at number 5. Goals per game and assists per game both favour Messi. He's way ahead of everyone. And also that, Ollie, he does more for the team than Ronaldo does. Like, Ronaldo is a huge impact player and, wins you trophies. But he doesn't play as much for the team as Messi does. So I found the conversation they had very interesting, and I didn't disagree with the top 5 that they had pretty much, except, maybe flip 1 and 2 around. But yeah, it was very interesting. Certainly a book I think I'm going to purchase, because some of the stories in the background about, different bits of info they got on the backgrounds of these players or some funny moments. Like, they interviewed the very first guy who was at the end of a Cruyff turn. They interviewed this guy in the book, and it's certainly one I'm looking forward to. No Christian Poulsen. No, surprisingly, no Christian Poulsen. No, in the top 100. Ollie, so I've seen ex-referees talk about how they used to give United decisions because of the pressure from the players. Same thing happens now, but others are applying the pressure. I would like to see these defenders as part of our future. Bradley, Kirkes, Konaté, Leone, Schlotterbeck, Bastoni, Guéhi, and as our CDM, Wharton or Stiller. Oh, hey Michael, I wouldn't say no to most of those players on your list, dude. Yeah, I really rate a lot of those players. Van Basten over Cruyff. He just didn't have the longevity. Marco Van Basten. His career was cut short with injury. So, I often wonder if Marco Van Basten was able to, play a full career, where he would have been or what he would have achieved, because what a footballer. What a striker. Just incredible. And I also wonder, did my favourite player make the top 100? Because growing up, I had a mad soft spot for Jean-Pierre Papin of Marseille at the time. I think he played for PSG as well. But for me growing up, Papin was somebody I loved watching playing football. Messi only played in easy leagues, Spain and France. Ronaldo done it in all the leagues. I mean, I don't... It's a different conversation, because look, Ronaldo didn't win those leagues on his own, nor did Messi and the stuff he won. I just think, I look at it this way. I look at it and I just think Messi excites me more playing football. Messi has me on the edge of my seat more. He's the greater talent. Ronaldo worked his backside off to make the very most out of every attribute he has, and he's a model professional to a T. But it's just Messi, man. It just is. Messi is just that guy. He's just special. Special. And I honestly, I don't even think it's a debate between Messi and Ronaldo. I really, really don't. I think it's so clear that Messi's the better footballer. Two Ballon d'Ors and 2 World Cups for Van Basten. Van Basten's never played or never won a World Cup, mate, because the Netherlands have never won a World Cup. So they definitely did win 2 World Cups. Slovakia to the World Cup. Let's go. Sad for Bradley, though. Well, congrats. Congrats on that one. Yeah, as you said, sad for Bradley. But look, congrats. It's always great to see countries making their way to the World Cup, and certainly enjoy it, mate. Enjoy it. If you're a Slovakian, enjoy it. You've earned the right. I've rebranded my channel. I'm going to start Liverpool fan channel as well because for as long as I've watched you, it's something I always wanted to do. And I've the confidence now. Well in, Reds Extra. Fair play. Like I said, mate, proud of you. Keep going. Right. Let's keep going because I've got more news to get through. What do we think about this story? So Christian Falk has said Liverpool have Bayern Munich Serge Gnabry on their radar, who is available on a free in the summer. However, the winger's current wages of 17 to 19 million euro per year are regarded as a very large sum. Thoughts on that one? I'm going to go straight out and say I don't want Serge Gnabry, even on a free. I just don't want him. I would have far higher preferences than him. So for me, it would be a no. I'd rather have Elise. I'd rather have Semenyo. Yeah, just no for me on Serge Gnabry. Messi's a better all-rounder, but Ronaldo's a better pen taker. Well, let me flip it a little bit for you. I actually think Messi's better with free kicks than Ronaldo. I think Ronaldo has had a couple of great free kicks, but I think Messi just has more consistency taking them, in my opinion. Right, let's see. Gnabry peaked years ago in the decline, said the hopeful guy. No, 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 said Alex. Nope, said Nikhil. No thanks for Frank. Tanya said no. No to Gnabry, said I am Splash. Kilo 9. Don't know if he'll suit us, said Samat. No thanks for Gnabry. Too old. Isn't good enough, said LFC Spectre. Yeah, I don't see anybody there saying yes to Serge Gnabry, so I'm glad it wasn't just my own instinct because, yeah, it wasn't doing it for me. Here's something that worries me if it's true, but thankfully this story is some Fikahes, so we can take it with a massive pinch of salt. But Fikahes say Chelsea are preparing a blockbuster £132 million bid to sign Julian Alvarez from Atletico Madrid next summer. That would worry me. That would worry me. If Chelsea added in him to the players they have, that would push the dial for me on Chelsea even closer to a title winner. Again, I mean, yeah, that would concern me. If they get Julian Alvarez, that really, really would concern me because I rate him very highly, as I said all summer when I was hoping that Liverpool had a chance there. Now look, I love the forwards we brought in and I've absolutely no problem with the lads we have, but yeah, he's a good player, Julian Alvarez, and in my mind I'd kind of hoped, and it might still happen, that Barcelona would be his destination if he leaves Atletico Madrid. Here's a mad story for you. There was links to Barcelona with Harry Kane because they can get him for 50 million euro in the summer with the clause in his deal. So there was links there for them signing him for 50 million. Although, would he leave Bayern where he's ripping it up and doing really, really well? The real Johnny Sin said, I genuinely take Bowen on a short-term deal in January. Yeah, where did this Bowen stuff come from, by the way? I'd seen a couple of people talking about Bowen today. I don't know. It's an interesting one because regular viewers of the channel know I've always been a massive Jarrod Bowen fan, and I've always said in a Jurgen Klopp team he would have been ideal on the right side, but I don't think he's going to move, and he's too old at this point, in my opinion, to bring him into Liverpool. It just wouldn't make sense to me. I'd rather we just went out and brought in a Semenyo, an Elise, or somebody else, but it isn't because he isn't good enough. I do think Jarrod Bowen is good enough. I just don't think it's likely, to be honest. And I think we know Liverpool's reluctance to throw big money at players 30-ish and upwards. So I'd have serious doubts about it. Paul Driscoll said Bowen's the one that got away. Was sure Klopp would sign him. Yeah, I get where you're coming from, man. I was similar to yourself. I thought we would maybe see Jarrod Bowen in a Liverpool shirt at one point. I really did. I think we need to work out what a slot team is right now before we think players. Again, JT Scott, fair, mate. But we do need a Salah replacement in the long term. So we got to figure that out as well. Right, what else we got? So Rudi Völler has been speaking on the criticism of Florian Wirtz, Germany legend. Certainly of my generation, younger viewers might not have ever heard of Rudi Völler, but he said it's not unusual in England where there are many experts who feel entitled to offer very direct criticism of players. He will find his way at Liverpool. I've got no doubt about that. Florian is a wonderful player and people in England will soon see that too. Do you know, it's no accident that there are so many former players, whether they're German or not, who are coming out and saying the same thing. Wirtz will succeed. Wirtz will work. Just give him time. I hope that does provide some comfort to Liverpool fans who are a bit frustrated at the minute, because we know opposing fans are going to jump all over it. And look, with the price tag he came in for, the weight of expectation is tough. But I've no doubts, and I keep saying it every show, I've no doubts about Wirtz, none. It's just going to be when it happens for him. And I think, if we're still talking about him not hitting the ground running in February or March, maybe then I'll look at it as a potential issue. But right now I see it just settling in, and that's the issue, just settling into the league, getting used to the physicality, the speed of the Premier League. Craig, how's it going? I only hear of Völler and Papin because I play FIFA. Nice. Jean-Pierre Papin was just somebody I loved. I had a Marseille jersey with his number on the back of it growing up. Liam said, for me, Mr. Wirtz is not the problem. This team, I rate the kid so highly. So do I, mate. So do I. Tanya said, Wirtz will rip up the Prem. Watch this space. Is Rudi Völler the greatest German player of all time? No, absolutely not. Beckenbauer, to me, would be the greatest German player of all time. Raz said, Craigo, I can't be Darwin Núñez didn't hit like we hoped for when we paid 85 million for him. I get it, but Darwin Núñez didn't have as much hype around him, at that age. And remember, Wirtz is only 22 now. Came from an invincible season with Leverkusen in Germany. I just think it's just a different comparison, in all honesty. This guy has been spoken about as a potential future Ballon d'Or winner, and I don't think that that's misplaced. So, look, there are always going to be players who don't make it for big money, and there's no denying that it didn't work for us with Darwin. But all clubs, transfer business isn't a perfect science or an exact science. Look, maybe I'm proven wrong over time. Maybe if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But right now, all I can say to you is I've got no fear that it won't. The real Johnny Sin said, Craig, whether in a shootout or in game, what are your most predictable penalty misses you've ever seen? Like you just knew the player was going to miss? I don't know, mate, off the top of my head. I will say this, though. I had zero optimism going into our penalty shootout against Paris Saint-Germain, just from the body language and how that game went. I just felt like the momentum. Actually, Shevchenko in Istanbul, I knew he was going to miss before he stepped up. I didn't with any of the other penalties in that shootout. I couldn't have predicted the other ones, even our ones that were missed. I didn't have that feeling, but Shevchenko, when he stepped up, I just knew I knew that was the moment we were going to win the Champions League in that game. And apart from that, I can't think of too many more. As I said, I knew that I just deep down had no faith going into that penalty shootout against Paris Saint-Germain. I just had a bad feeling. Jay One Stop Red said, Wirtz, best player in Germany last season, definitely going to rip up this when he finds his place. Also, last season had the most Man of the Match awards in the Champions League, I think with 5 Player of the Game awards or Player of the Match awards. Southgate in 96, I was only 10 and I knew he'd fluff it. Do you know what? I'm Irish and all, but I have to say, when Stuart Pearce scored that penalty, I can't remember if it's the same game, but Stuart Pearce had a penalty after missing a penalty for England in, I think, Italia 90. I was happy for him, I have to say, because I remember what he went through. And Stuart Pearce was the player that wore his heart on his sleeve. Like, so even though it was England, when Stuart Pearce stepped up and scored that penalty, I was happy for him. It might be because my wife's a huge Forest fan, and of course Stuart Pearce was a legend of Forest. But yeah, I was happy for him in that moment, as much as, you know, I'm not usually happy for England doing well. Ben said, "Me too. That PSG shootout was doomed from the start." Nunez versus PSG, said Leon. I just knew it. Jimmy Traore, Istanbul. What a beautiful night at LFC Spectre. Christina van der Merwe said, Nunez in the cup penalty shootout last year. Against Spain, he scored. The Germans as well. No, whatever the first penalty was back after the one he'd missed, I just remember feeling really happy for Stuart Pearce when he scored it. The real Johnny Sin said, still pisses me off how Ali didn't save Vitinha's. I'm not going to lie, dude. I don't remember the intricacies of the details of the penalty shootout. I don't have the capacity to remember that far back. I'm shocked. I really am. But I just knew going into that penalty shootout, I just had no faith that we were going to get the job done. Just didn't feel like it was likely. Why is it not all the academies not ranked in the top 10 best academies, or does the owners not really have much interest in taking the academy because other clubs take academies more important? No, I would say we've had serious investment in the academy from the owners. Like if you look at the AXA, the whole point of the AXA was Jurgen's vision to have everybody on the same campus. You know, I know there's a divide between the two, but so we can keep an eye on the younger players. No, I would say Liverpool have invested a lot in their academy. It's definitely not something I would hold against FSG. I think they take the academy system very seriously. But there are, some clubs that the academy is basically what makes their money for them. So if you look at Ajax as an example, or even some clubs we've never really heard of lower down who produce so many great players over the years. Southampton have had an incredible academy over the years. Chelsea, of course, are fantastic what they've been able to come out of their academy. City in the last few years have started to bring through players. Emotions in Distress said, we should work on the basics of winning duels and second balls, because if not, I don't think Salah has any chance of staying. So, two things. I'm going to answer that. But before I do, if I can be greedy and ask you, please do hit that like button for me. It really does help push the channel out there. So if you have a second, please do. And to get back to your question, you're right about the duels. Like, I keep coming back to what Robbo said. If you don't go out and do the basics right, if you don't go out and earn the right to play, you're not going to win anything in English football. You have to be at it. You have to be up for the fight, and you have to match your opponent and win your second balls and win your duels. 100% agree. So, next Saturday, I might not be able to do the watch-along next Saturday of the Forest game, because we got a letter in the door today to say that our electricity is due to be off until 5 o'clock that day as they're doing upgrades. And it's like the third or fourth weekend it's happened, but every other one I got lucky and it was the opposite day to when we were playing. So if I can't do it, Connor will do the watch-along and I will do all the afterwards, the match reaction and all. Because if I've no electricity, I can't do the watch-along. But sometimes it comes back a little bit earlier. So, it's going to be a fluid situation next Saturday. But either way, the channel will have the watch-along. It just might not be me hosting it if I've no electricity. And it annoys me because I was looking forward to it, and I still hope maybe the electricity comes back on before then. But just letting you know, if you see Connor and not me, I'll be there for the match reaction and stuff. It'll be back by then. Craig, did you save many penalties when a goalie? I'm not just saying this because I have said it in the past as well. It was probably my specialty. I was very good at reading the body language of the penalty takers. There's a lot of things I wasn't very good at, but, as a goalkeeper, two things I would say I was good at. I was a great shot stopper and I was very good at reading penalties. I don't remember losing a penalty shootout as a goalkeeper. I really don't. I'm not just trying to be an asshole and brag. Genuinely don't. Like, there's so many things I wasn't great at. I wasn't great at coming out for crosses a lot of the time. I'd misread and I'd come too early. But shot stopping and penalties, yeah, it was something I was pretty damn good at. And I took our team's penalties as well. Although I do have one mad story. I used to play for a team called Bushy Park Rangers, and I left to come back to the club that I played with my entire youth. But as luck would have it, we got them in the FAI Cup, and I took a penalty in the game against them and missed, and then I saved the penalty in the game from them, and that still sits with me to this day because we ended up losing it 1-0 in extra time, but during the game, both teams got awarded a penalty. I took ours, and it's one of the few times I ever went down the middle, because normally I pick a side and go left foot, or I'd usually go keeper's bottom left. And I went down the middle, and the goalkeeper's name was Stewart, and he dove past the ball, and his foot caught it, and it went up over the bar. And I remember I'm still so angry about that to this day, because if ever there was a team I wanted to score against, it was that team, because I was back with my old team. But I did save a penalty later in the game from them, but we still lost it 1-0. Drive to Connor's gaff, do a watch along. No, because I need to be back for the match reaction and stuff, and Connor doesn't have the green screen set up. So no. And of course the builders are here as well, so I need to be here in case the builders need anything. Even though, because they'll have their own power source. Mr. Magoo out here saving penalties left, right and centre, banging out DJ sets in the evening. Yeah. Look, football was my life growing up. It was my life, like I said to you guys, when I was playing underage levels. I was playing in goal for my team on a Saturday, and sometimes I played left wing for the older team the next day if they were short. My life just revolved around football and tennis when I was younger. Right, let's get into more news. Nike. Let's talk about Nike for a second. Liverpool young star Will Wright has signed for Nike to become a Nike athlete. So congratulations to Will Wright on that one. Obviously Adidas might not be happy with it, but Will Wright is now a Nike athlete, and congratulations to him. Former Liverpool midfielder Igor Bishan has said, I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool go on a great run of winning games and then suddenly be back to challenge for the title. I love the optimism from Igor Bishan, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm not thinking title challenges just yet. So, we've done this one already, but I'm going to go back over it. Liverpool are monitoring Bournemouth forward Antoine Semenyo ahead of the January transfer window alongside Manchester City and Spurs. Keenan Yildiz, let's talk about him for a second. Fabrizio Romano, so, we can actually believe this instead of it being Facajes or, one of the other hit and miss outlets, let's say. He said, there is no agreement between Juventus and Keenan Yildiz over a new contract. Top Premier League clubs are following the player and have started making contact to explore the situation. I know there's many people in the chat who are fans of Yildiz, as am I. And if there's any chance to get him in, I'd hope we're at the table in the conversation, because he's a really, really talented player. Craig, read this important news. In the Kayla states Howard Webb is due in court next week. I mean, I don't know what to say to that, because I don't know what it's about. I don't know what it's in relation to. I don't have a clue what it is. So, yeah, I need more info than that one. But look, as we said earlier on, the Premier League's key match, where is it? Let me get back to it so I can read it out properly, because I don't want to misquote. So, Virgil van Dijk's goal for Liverpool against Manchester City on Sunday, which would have tied this score at 1-1, should have stood according to the Premier League's key match incidents panel. So, answer me this, right? How could you have a key match incidents panel come to the conclusion that the goal should have scored, and the head of the PGMOL, who's in charge of officiating, didn't think the goal should have stood? He went on mic'd up, and I don't remember him saying, that was a mistake, Michael, that goal should have stood. I remember him saying it's not unreasonable for the goal to be ruled out, but, I don't remember Dermot Gallagher saying the goal should have stood. So how is it that these former referees are once again talking bollocks? Especially on Dermot Gallagher's front, because I don't know what the point of Ref Watch is, because it's in no way an objective show. He just backs up the referees. And the only time he ever says it isn't is when there's just no chance he can wriggle an excuse out for the referees. It's a piss take. So, again, is anybody going to be held accountable for this? Of course not. It'll just be lessons will be learned, everybody move on. And then the next time when Michael Oliver's on VAR and somehow a subjective decision goes against us in a top level game, we'll be told the same thing again and again and again. Really, really riles me up. Really does, because some things I just think are even beyond questionable at this point. Ref watch isn't worth the watch. It's not. It's just gaslighting fans. That's all I see it as. Like, if we went on there and I thought Darren Gallagher was actually being objective, it's just let's find a way, one avenue to make an excuse for the referee. It's just not good enough. Paul said, Craig, you said Oliver would screw us over. I did. I didn't take any pleasure in saying it, Paul, but regular viewers of the channel will know all that week building up to the game, I said I wasn't concerned about City. I wasn't concerned about Pep. My only big concern was Michael Oliver. And I was proven right. Now, look, City beat us, better team. No argument on any of that. But, again, we knew we were going to get screwed. And we got screwed. And now we're supposed to be surprised by it. Dave said, too much money involved in football for dodgy decisions. Well, look, let's just talk about this, right? Simple as. I'm going to try and boil this down to the very basics of my argument. When we were talking about Arna going over to Dubai for his mid-season break in October, I said to you that the optics weren't great. So let's look at this. Michael Oliver, and he's not alone, but Michael Oliver and other officials were doing handy little jobs over in Abu Dhabi, I believe, which is run by City's owners. And then we have a lot of decisions in big games that seemingly, these 50-50 calls, at least against us, are benefiting Manchester City, whether it be directly or indirectly. So our game against Arsenal, indirectly, let's say. The optics of that aren't great, are they? And if we can't even have that conversation, that these lads going over in these little nixers, as we call them, little odd jobs, whatever you want to call them, and then we're getting these very subjective decisions always go against us in these big games, is it not fair to ask that question and say, what the fuck is going on? Rather than just being told you're a conspiracy theorist. Again, the optics aren't great. And if that isn't maybe potentially a conflict of interest, I don't know what is. Like I said, it just feels like, it honestly just feels like the PGMOL are untouchable at this point. And no matter what fans think, say, or feel, they just don't seem to be really answerable to the footballing public. And every excuse and every bit of positive PR they can get is there for them. And it's just, the football fans are feeling so disillusioned by it all. And again, it's Oliver for us. But every club will have their own referee or a few referees that they feel have something in for them. Cute is a prime example of shithousery, said Tanya. Yeah, but we're all supposed to believe that he's nothing against us, Tanya. Nothing against us. We're all just imagining it. So, who would partner VVD? Let's get it to 1,000 votes if we can. We need 120 more. Who would partner VVD in a pair, Guéhi or Konaté? Do vote on it. Once we get to 1,000, we'll show you the answer. But, try to get up to 1,000 votes if we can. Gavin, how are we, Gavin? Said, let's all reset together. All together. We have an amazing squad full of winners and our season starts next Saturday. See where it takes us. I love that, Gavin, man. I love that. Yeah, I love that. Sign me up, Gavin. I'm all in for the reset. Yeah. I said something I didn't say it as eloquently as you did, mate, but during the week I said I kind of had my little mini epiphany where I kind of just came to the conclusion that I'm going to have to accept that this is going to be a somewhat volatile season for us, and take it with a pinch of salt. The expectations that I had in the summer certainly have changed now. So yeah, sign me up, mate. I'm on board with you. Gary Evans, how are we, Gary? Hey, Craig, hope you're well. Love the channel. Thank you, mate, and the community. Did you see that Cody has the role of brand ambassador for Bentley? Somebody mentioned it the other day, and not too shabby, man. Not too shabby. I mean, yeah, I'm open to becoming a brand ambassador for Bentley as well. If they're throwing them around. But no, look, that's class, isn't it? For me, it's always been Adidas. Always been Adidas. That would be the dream for me. If I could pick a partnership and a brand to work with, it would be Adidas over anybody. But wow, Bentley, nice. That's not too shabby, because you got to have a Bentley, right? You can't be a brand ambassador without having the product. So yeah, well done, Cody, and well done, Cody's agent as well. Paul Owen said, you and other content creators did exactly what you're saying. You can go back to my channel, Paul, 4 years ago, and I was talking about this refereeing thing then, and why I think there should be an elite group of referees that kind of rotate around Europe's top 5 leagues, where they're gaining experience in different environments, and players are getting used to different types of refereeing, and then when you go into European competitions, maybe there's less surprises for teams, and it also would potentially remove that bias that we speak about, or inherent biases. Now, I suppose some people say, what about the planet? What about the global impact of referees? They're doing that anyway. Do you know what I mean? They're doing that anyway. But I think it's the only common sense way forward, personally. Laser said, we need a centre-back in January. We aren't winning anything with our current style. Mate, I said the same the other day, Laser. I said, if we don't get a centre-back in January, it's going to be a mistake. And I think it will cost us as the season goes on. What's this one? I've done that one. So just in case you're coming in wondering about the main part of tonight's title, Footy Insider have said that Liverpool are ready to go all out to sign Mark Guéhi in January. And I very, very much hope that's true, because it would certainly make me very happy. A reminder as well, this is the last live stream until Monday. So there won't be a live stream tomorrow or Sunday. There will be some videos coming out. We're going to record them each day and send them out, but no live content for the next couple of days, and then we'll be back on Monday. I don't know how it would work, but there should be some sort of bidding for refs around Europe. I think, Liam, it should be just that UEFA have, I don't know what they're exactly called, elite referees, let's say. And these elite referees, I think, should be sent to the most high-profile games around Europe on a rotational basis. So let's say, UEFA put together 6 groups of referees that work together all the time, from different leagues. So I don't know how many refs are in each league, but let's say you put together groups of play, and English referees can't come in to the English setup. So you've got the top 5 leagues, but the English referees don't come in to ref the English games. They ref on the continent, and the referees from Spain or Italy or whatever come in to the Prem on a rotational basis. I think it'd just be the better thing. Now, I'm not saying it would fix everything, but at least the optics of it would be improved. Lucas said, do you think we should keep going as a 3-5-2 or 3 at the back? We played like that and got good results. Hope we make shorts answering this. Did we play that? I think I remember one game, maybe, briefly. We went to a back 3, perhaps 2. But the problem I have with that system, Lucas, is I don't think we have enough centre-backs to play it properly. And people will say to me, Robertson, Endo, Gravenberch, but they're not really centre-backs. Or at least they're not people that were signed by Liverpool to be centre-backs. So I would argue if you want to play with 3, you need 5 top-quality centre-backs. And maybe then the Andy Robertsons who could come in. For what it's worth, if you wanted to do it to get through this season initially and you needed Robertson for some of the games left centre-back, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But longer term, I think we need 5. So you also look at it and think, if you play 3 at the back, 5 in midfield, it makes sense then for the likes of Kirkes, Frimpong, and Bradley would have no problem adapting to it either. So I'd love it. And I think a lot of people in the chat have spoken about the idea of going to a back 3 in possession, a back 5 out of possession. But, you know, we have to see it from the manager. Now, what we did see this week, I think Ben Spochak said it, is one of the underage teams, I think it was the 21s, maybe played with a back 3. So maybe that's a sign of things to come. But I just don't know if we have the personnel at the minute. But I love the idea. Major Alex said, I think without a new centre-back in January, we'll struggle with getting top 4. So even allowing for that, Alex, I just think we're one injury away from an absolute shit show. Like, heaven forbid Virgil was out for 6 weeks. I don't even want to think about how that works for us. But if you brought in Mark Guéhi, and you at least then have Mark Guéhi as an option alongside Konaté or alongside Gomez, I think it covers our asses, for want of a better phrase. Lucas, thanks for answering, mate. My pleasure. I might not always be able to get to every comment, but I promise you I do try to get through as many as I can. The Cop End TV said, it's obviously the end goal to play a back 3. Dude, I hope you're right. I mean, yeah. I mean, look at the players we have. I hope you're right in saying it's the end, or it's the end goal, because if you look at even Wirtz coming in, some of the signings start to make a little bit more sense then, and if you're playing with 2 strikers as well. So I hope you're right, mate. I really do, because like I said, it would explain a lot of things. But here's where I'm confused by it, right? If it was the end goal to play with a back 3, 2 things about that confuse me. Why we didn't try it in pre-season, and why we left it so late to try to bring in Mark Guéhi. Because if you knew you were going to play a system that was going to require 3 centre-backs, you would have been practicing it in pre-season more, and we would have been playing it. That's what confuses me about it. Or is it maybe now he's looking at it and thinking, maybe this system would be better? Or maybe he's not at all. Yeah, we don't have any proof that Arne is flirting with the idea of a back 3. But I do agree with what you said, mate, in that it would make a lot of sense. The day Wirtz and Isak click will be the day our season gets started, said Itachi. I don't disagree, my man. I don't disagree. I'm just intrigued to see what happens when Mo goes to the AFCON. That is going to be very interesting for me to see the team selections that Arne goes with when Mo isn't around. And if we suddenly then start see Chiesa getting a chance on the right, or if he changes the system. I don't think Slot chose the player, said Paul. I mean, there have been a few pieces wrote about this, Paul, that, again, I come back to the word committee, because in one way, with a sporting director at the club, the sporting director's job is to think longer term and to think about what happens if we need to change coach and stuff like that. So in one way, I could almost understand the sporting director having a big say in who comes in and who doesn't. But you'd never want to think a manager was having a player forced upon them that they didn't want in, because you'll just see that player not picked. So for me, I feel like that's the case with Chiesa. Somebody signed him and Arne didn't want them. But the idea, I guess, of the sporting director thing is, let's say the sporting director brings the players in to suit the system that the club is playing. Well, then if the manager needs to be changed, the philosophy of the club doesn't have to change. If the coach needs to be changed, it's hypothetically an easier situation to pick up the coach, remove it, drop in the new coach, and the system stays the same right throughout the club. But I honestly do think it's a committee thing where everybody has an input on it. But quite how much input Arne has, I don't really know the answer to that one. Paul said, I agree, Craig, but Slot is just a coach, not a manager. Exactly, mate. But what I would say, Paul, is he will maybe have earned a little bit more input having won the league in his first year. Whether he has the same, I don't think he has the same level of influence over these things as Jurgen did, but maybe he'll earn that over time. I'd say you have to start off at this level, and then that trust is built as the relationship between Hughes and Arne builds over time. Liverpool going to go cheap on a centre-back, if anything. Well, why do we think that, though? Genuinely. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm just wondering why your initial thought is that we'll go cheap on one. If getting Mark A on a free is seen as cheap, I also think it's just a good signing. I just think it's the right guy. And the fact that he's available on a free is a bit of a bonus. And there's no such thing as a free signing, really, because you're going to pay signing on fee and stuff. But I'd actually be more concerned if we went out there, let's say, and spent 15 million on a centre-back than going out there and getting somebody like Mark Guéhi, who at least we know his body of work in the Premier League. And with England, we know his calibre. All out in January, what was the summer? The all out part is in relation to Mark Guéhi, drum thumb, because Footy Insider said Liverpool are ready to go all out to sign Mark Guéhi in January. So yeah, that's what we mean by the all out thing. Florian said, afternoon, Craig, finally the weekend. Yes, it is. And I'm looking forward to this weekend for a few reasons. Obviously, the Ben Eubank card on tomorrow. I'm looking forward to watching that. I think there's some UFC on as well. Sunday, obviously, Ireland play Hungary. Yeah, just looking forward to the weekend. And usually, I outside of game days, I dread the weekends because, I'm a boring fecker who doesn't go out or do much. So, but the weather outside is shocking. And I'm looking forward to a bit of a rest. Tanya said, look at Arsenal's backline compared to ours. Yeah. And just the depth that they have there. Even in Capier being brought in. Right, so we have had over 1,000 votes now, and we asked who would partner VVD in a pair. 94% of the people that voted said Mark Guéhi would, in their opinion, come in and partner Virgil van Dijk. And look, I don't disagree. But I also want to add a little bit into that. I do want Konaté to stay. I want to put that out there because, yes, I've been critical of him. Yes, I don't think he's been at his best enough this season. But I still prefer if he signed a new deal and stayed alongside bringing in Mark Guéhi. Because then you've got a good collection of centre-backs. Konaté, Guéhi, Van Dijk, Leone, Gomez, who I think will move on. So for me, my ideal scenario is Konaté stays, we bring in Mark Guéhi, and then in the summer, we sell Gomez and bring in somebody else. That's my ideal scenario. Whoever that somebody else is, it should be a top quality centre-back like a Bastoni or somebody of that ilk. So Tikka Masala's comment was removed. The word Islam was in it, and I think one of the mods got confused thinking it was about religion. But it isn't about religion. It's about the UFC. So I'll read it out. Craig, JDM or Islam? Honestly, dude, I don't know enough about the UFC to give you any type of prediction. I am a very, very casual viewer of the UFC compared to boxing, which, I could sit back and talk about boxing with you all day. But yeah, I don't know, dude, is the honest answer. I'm just going to watch it because it's on. But yeah, it wasn't... It wasn't an intentional thing to bring religion around into the chat. So just want to explain to the gentleman why the comment was accidentally removed. FC Pro guy said we surely need 2 centre backs because Leone is injured, but you can't bring in a centre back for the long term to fix a short term problem. So that's why I think 1 would be enough, because Leone is coming back, and at that point, what do you do when Leone comes back? So if you bring in 1, I think would be okay. Dave said Eubank Jr. to do it again tomorrow. I'm not sure. I think it's a 50-50 fight, but my 50 quid went on a Conor Benn stoppage because I thought that's where the value was from a betting perspective. I think I got 7-2 or something like that on a Conor Benn stoppage. So yeah, that's where my €50 went. Spencer said, "Would love to get Joel Matip out of retirement. Will do a job." Grumpy said, "I'm half Australian, half Maltese, so happy with Malta's win today." Nice, well in. I'm happy with Ireland's victory over Portugal as well. Ronaldo getting sent off for the first time in his career. Couldn't handle the atmosphere at the Aviva in Dublin. Happens to the best of them, Ronnie. Don't worry about it, mate. That's why you're number 5 on the list of the world's greatest players and Messi's number 1. Craig, did you ever watch wrestling? Oh, God, yes. Yeah. Right up until probably 25, I would have been watching wrestling all the time. Like, religiously watching wrestling. Life got a bit busier then, and I kind of drifted away a little bit. But yeah, wrestling was a huge part of my life growing up. I went to a lot of WWE at the time and WWF events in Dublin and stuff when I was growing up. Loved it. Used to kick the shit out of my parents as an infant or a young child trying wrestling moves. Eubank looks shocking with the weight loss. Well, there's a rehydration clause of £10. And actually, it's mad to see that Conor Benn weighed more than Chris Eubank Jr. But there is a rehydration clause and a check weight tomorrow morning where they can't have put on more than £10 overnight. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It is. And Conor Benn swears that this is, he's gone back down to 147 after this. Those were the days, staying up till 2 a.m. to watch Raw and SmackDown. Yep, loved it. I just love the showmanship of wrestling. I love the promos of wrestling. Like, that's where my love of Ric Flair came from. The man could cut a promo like nobody else. Just incredible. If Guéhi comes in, I don't think Konaté would want to stay, even if he was offered a contract, said Malcolm. That would tell you a lot about his mindset, Malcolm, though, wouldn't it? Because if you want to play for Liverpool Football Club, mate, in my eyes, it doesn't matter who they sign. If they're in your position, you've got to have the belief that you're going to best them and you're going to start ahead of them. If your mindset is, shit, this player's come in, I'm not going to make it, well, you probably don't belong at Liverpool Football Club. Genuinely, that's the way I think about it. Like, remember when we signed Wirtz this summer? Szoboszlai came out and said, I'm not giving up my spot without a fight. And look at what he's done this season. Andy Robertson could have easily just thrown his hands up and left when Kirkes came in, but he didn't. He stayed and fought for his place. And that's the calibre and the mentality you've got to have to be at a club like Liverpool. You've got to think, I don't give a shit who this is. I'm going to win this battle. This is my shirt. You don't get to the top. So I honestly wouldn't think Konaté would look at it and think, if they sign Mark Guéhi, I'm off. Because I genuinely believe he'd look at it and think, well, let's see. Let's duke it out and see who gets the starting position. Because if he does, if he said, well, they signed Mark Guéhi, so then I just think that's a defeatist attitude, and probably right that he moved on. Itachi said, I'd love to bring in Guéhi for a low fee in January, Collins in the summer, and a new contract for Ibu. Then we have 4 good centre-back options when VVD leaves in 2027. Yeah, I'm not against that either, mate, because much like I've said about Mohamed Salah, we do have to plan in the future for life without Virgil. Whenever that might be, I don't know. But it does have to be in our thinking, and we have to plan for it. Craig, ever going to play FIFA again and stream it on Twitch? Probably not. Probably, did I enjoy it? Yeah, a little bit. Certainly it was funny, but I'm not a gamer, so it's just very, I have to force myself to do it because it's not something I do offline. Like, when I'm finished here, I don't play any games at all. The odd time I'll pull out the Switch and play Mario Kart, but that's probably it. Just got Bolton promoted to the Prem in Football Manager 26. Nice. Well played. Yeah, well played, Ryan. These things don't go unnoticed. We'll keep an eye on you for the England job next. The Cop End TV said, some good signs from Konaté showing he's been mentoring, pushing Ekitike since he came in. That's a good sign for me, as if he's to say to him, you need to become a leader for us. Yeah, that's fair, mate, that's fair. I know the same thing you're speaking about. Yeah. absolutely agree. It's never a bad sign when you see people who've been at the club like that, mentoring players who are in, and particularly in that sense, another young French player. Love to see Craig playing WWE video games on YouTube. Do you know what? I have never, ever, ever played a wrestling video game. Never. Yeah. That tells you how little I play. Like, I think back in my days, it was Street Fighter 2 and Tekken, probably. Thanks, Craig. You talk more sense than any pundit and most coaches. Keep it up. Appreciate that, Malcolm. I do have my fair share of shite that I talk at times, mate. But look, as I said, football's been my life. I obsess about it. I religiously watch it. I read up as much as I can. And I say this not to be proud of it, but it's honest. Liverpool's results have a big impact on my mood and my mental health, as much as, I probably shouldn't say that. It does. If Liverpool win, life feels better. Klopp will be a pundit for the World Cup. Thoughts? I'm really interested to see it. So I have it here. Talking to Instagram, Jurgen Klopp has now officially confirmed that he will be returning to football, but this time as a pundit. He'll be a pundit at Magenta TV, associated with T-Mobile for the upcoming World Cup 2026 in Mexico, Canada and the USA. Yeah, I'm really interested to see his input, obviously, and his take on the games, to see if critical, how critical he may be. But yeah, I love it. I love when you see former managers like that give their take as pundits. Some of the stuff Mourinho said as a pundit I found really interesting. Wenger at times, his input was really interesting. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see how Jurgen gets on. No doubt he'll be brilliant at it. Spencer, Craig, who would you say, except from Konaté, that would be tempted to move? I think Gravenberch's a worry. Maka for me. Maka would be the one that I would have a concern that maybe he fancies a little spell in Spain at some point. Gravenberch I'm not worried about because he's so young. So even if he does fancy, let's say another league at some point, he's got probably 10 years or more left in his career. So yeah, I think in the short term at least we've nothing to worry about there. What's Slot's style of play? Surely in a manager's second season we'd have a better understanding. That is something the hopeful guy I've asked multiple times this season and said that I couldn't describe it to you. I couldn't come out and tell you, Arne Slot, with Liverpool we play like this, because I don't think we have an identity, and that is worrying in our second season. Last season I felt I had more of an understanding of how we were playing, but even at that I had a longing to go back to the days of Jurgen where we came out of the traps quick and, we were on it from minute one. I felt like we had to grow into games more. Even last season when we won the Prem, I don't remember us starting too many first halves and thinking, yeah, well, we blitzed them there. It seemed to be we were winning them second half of games with little tweaks from the manager. So unfortunately, I don't know what our identity is at the minute. L. Stew said, results used to really affect me. I'm more philosophical now, and I think it came at winning the first Prem. Yeah, I'm just an emotional dude, and football is one of the handful of things in this life. Like, if you see me with other stuff, I'm way more laid back. But football, food, obviously, my family, they provoke emotions in me that, bring out a different side of me, and a more cartoonish side is probably the right way to say it. Ahil Saeed said, hi mate, love you bro, thank you, and so does my family. Keep doing what you're doing, hope family are safe, and you're the reason why I love football and Liverpool. That's so lovely of you, mate. Thank you, and love to your family as well from mine. Yeah, really appreciate those kind words, mate. Thank you. Remember the boys pen. Look, I've never been in it, and I wasn't. I don't think I was even going to Anfield around that time. But yeah, I remember it, and I've said this before. I wish that there were some sections of let's say even the COP that were unreserved. So the possibility of mates getting together and congregating and having, you know, areas that start the singing and stuff like this. You know, when we've had the conversations around atmosphere at Anfield, and I'm not the right person to answer this. I mean, the guys that go week in, week out, far more likely to give you a good answer to this. But I always wondered, was it worth having an unreserved section where, yes, you had your tickets, but you didn't have a specific seat, and you may be able to go with mates? Because I think the big problem this day is you can't really get a group of 5, 8, 10 people to go to a game together unless you support Manchester City. And I think that's an issue. It's an issue because you want the people who want to sing, or, you know, camaraderie there. And yes, there will be camaraderie from people going week in and week out and getting to see each other and getting to know each other. But, you know, the next generation of young lads coming through, I think Everton are stealing a march on us with that, with some of the things that they have for younger fans to get into games. I think it's more difficult now for younger Liverpool fans to get to games than perhaps it is for younger Everton fans. And I think if that can be addressed somehow, that would be a good thing. But I'm not the one to solve the ticketing issue, because there are people way better placed than me that have better opinions on this than me. Liam said, little token for a great stream. Ta, mate, at all. No, thank you, sir. Always appreciative. And yeah, appreciate your support, Liam. Right, so I'm going to stay on for another 10 or 15 minutes and then we'll call it a night. Remember, no live streams till Monday after this evening. But yeah, really enjoying chatting with you all again tonight. Craig, have you seen the story of Pennington on the Liverpool website? Be a really good option for us as a centre-back. I don't know much about the Liverpool underage teams. I just don't have the time to keep up. So, yeah, sorry, I can't give you a better answer on that one. But I've said this for years. I'm almost embarrassed to say it. But I have LFC TV and stuff. I just don't get time to watch the under-21s too much. Because I'm usually building for these shows and researching and reading and trying to reply to people and stuff. I just don't have the time. Bigger stadium ticketing issue solved. Is it though? Because to have the bigger stadium, there are things that go along with that are prohibitive in their own. Like, let's say, I remember an article reading before that if we went much above the capacity we have now, then you have to build infrastructure. So you have to have better connective transport, rail, buses. You have to think about noise pollution in the residential area around it. That would most likely involve us leaving Anfield at that point. So yeah. And look, I wouldn't have known this till I read that piece, but there are so many things that would be an additional cost on top of just the build to extend further. And that's before you look into the potential compulsory purchase order or whatever of houses in and around. Craig, being too locked in, you need the much needed weekend off. I do, because I've been in a lot of pain for the last 3 weeks with my shoulder, and even my holiday didn't really feel like a holiday because I was in agony every day. So yeah, this weekend I'm going to just be a little bit selfish and kick back on Saturday in particular and enjoy the boxing. So I'll make sure I get 2 videos out tomorrow, but yeah, no live stream until Monday. And then we can start to build up again to the game next Saturday against Forest. Sometimes I have to force myself to take them couple of days off live streaming because I know I need it, and with what's going on at the house at the minute, with building front, building back, mess everywhere, it's stressful trying to make sure I can get in and do the streams as well. Yeah. But again, not complaining because I love what I do. Do you think the refs in England should be investigated for betting as 152 refs in Turkey got caught? Well, no, they shouldn't be investigated unless there's proof that there's something going on. And I don't know of any of that proof in existence for English referees. And I don't think it was just referees in Turkey, if I remember correctly. I think it was players that were involved. I think it was 11,000 bets or something like that, or it was a very high number anyway. But I don't know of any issues like that in England for refereeing. You know, I don't have a high opinion of a lot of the refereeing in England, but you know, I genuinely try to be fair on these things. Like, I'm not even sitting here saying I think Michael Oliver's corrupt or anything. I'm open to a potential subconscious bias, but I'm fairly confident in what I say, that he's at the scene of the crime a lot, as was Tierney before him. And I don't believe in coincidences. I just don't. Other than Semenyo and Elise, who in your opinion could replace Salah? I think you could look at Nico Williams, although often favours the left. But again, I think you could look at Nico Williams. There was a report earlier on linking us with Serge Gnabry, and I'm not having that. I don't think he'd be good enough at all. Again, not sure if you could move Yildiz, but I like him as a player. But yeah, I want somebody pacey who runs at defenders and takes a man on, because I don't think we have enough of that in the team at the minute. Craig, take as much time off as you wish, but come back. My days off will be filled thinking everyone's going to stop watching, because I always do that. Even on holidays, I sit there for my holiday just stressed the whole time that when I come back, everyone's going to found another channel and forgotten about us. So yeah, I don't like time off. It doesn't sit well with me. I'm glad you made a living out of what you love. We should all be so lucky. Yeah, look, it took like 6 years to get to the point before it was a job for me. And at that point, I was probably in debt with starting up the channel and buying the equipment we needed to over the years. But it was a labour of love, and it was a labour that started from a mental health perspective more than anything. Like, I started this channel or this content stuff out of sort of loneliness, really. I didn't really have a connection with Liverpool fans in and around where I live, and a lot of the mates I grew up with aren't really into football. So I kind of just wanted to share this love of this club with other people who felt the same. And content seems the best avenue to try and do it. From starting a Twitter account to writing some articles to doing a podcast to then doing this. And it never entered my head that it would become a job. Never. But God, I'm grateful it has. And hopefully in the next few months we buy this house. Yeah, like I said, from where I was in life, you know, don't want to go back to it all again, but to where we are now, and how nice my life is. Yeah, it's been a long way, but I love it. I'm so grateful for it all. You know, whether we keep growing or not, it's been something I'm so proud of. There could be no other Liverpool channel than yours. So sometimes, Itachi, sometimes I feel a little bit bitter. Sometimes I wonder, what if we got the opportunities others got? And I know that's not the right way to think, and I catch myself on it as well. But, you know, I often think if I had some of the interviews or opportunities that others had, I wonder where we'd be. I wonder if the club acknowledged us, where we'd be. I have this ongoing battle in my mind of loving something that doesn't want to know I exist. And it's not an entitlement that I think the club should recognise us. The club recognise content creators. So then you're left asking yourself, am I so horrible that the club want nothing to do with me? And that's a really weird mental space, because you're thinking, am I a bad person? What am I giving out that's so toxic? Or what's wrong with me, basically, is where I'm going with this. And it's tough, because I've no entitlement to anything, but I don't think it's a level playing field either. Like, how do I say this? I live in Ireland, and not once has any outlet, radio station, newspaper, magazine, anybody ever highlighted us. Ever. Never happened. Never been in any publications, never been brought on for a segment on anything, never been interviewed, never, ever, ever, ever. And I sit back and I think about this and I go, am I so unlikable, or am I so blunt that I'm just toxic to these people? Because like, we got to where we are in the channel organically by building it day by day, week by week, stream by stream, winning people over bit by bit, having amazing support and an amazing group of people that look past some of the clips that might make me seem something or another and take the time to get to know me. And that's very satisfying to see, you know, people come in and think, yeah, you know, you're a decent fella and we appreciate your honesty. But at the same time, it feels like I love the club and they don't want to know I exist. And that's tough to square off mentally. And I don't know if other content creators have the same issue. Like, I'm not sure of how much, if any, contact Goldbridge has with United, or whether they don't want that to do with his channel. I don't know. So it wouldn't be fair for me to say, but I know I've sat back and just felt very, very excluded intentionally. For what reason, I don't know. And that's tough. Like I said, it's tough to get to terms with that mentally when you love something. I think we're big enough now that I can say that the club know about us. You know, it's not that they don't know we exist. And we're the most watched Liverpool fan channel in the world. Simple as that. There's no argument about that. We are the most watched Liverpool fan channel in the world. And we are never invited to anything. Never invited to media days. Never invited to play at Anfield when other charity stuff's on. Never invited to have interviews with players. Never invited to get promos of free kits or any of that shit. Absolutely nothing. Never. And it's tough because it makes you feel like you are a bad guy for some reason. Goldbridge has had interviews with players. I don't think that's been arranged via the club, though, from what I know about them situations. But again, I don't mean to drag Goldbridge's name into it. It's not about him. It's just I'm saying, like, I find it tough. I find it hard because you love something that thinks little of you, and that's tough to square off because you're thinking, shit, am I really an arsehole? Like, here's an example. You probably notice I have a bee in my bonnet with the echo. You probably have picked up on that by now. And it's for a very simple reason. They never acknowledge our existence. They'll talk about, you know, red men, they'll talk about the Anfield rap, they'll talk about Twitter accounts, they'll talk about, you know, journalists. They'll never, ever, ever, ever fucking acknowledge that we exist. And it's out of pure pettiness because I call some of the journalists out on stuff. And that's this industry. That is how this industry is. I can promise you, if we had the connections that some of these others have, we'd be well past 1 million by now. And it's not that I'm concerned about that, because I'm very grateful for what we have and where we are. But it's not a level playing field, and it never has been. You know, it's very much us swimming against the tide. And that's why I'm so proud of where we are and what we've gotten to, because we did it thanks to you. You believed in us. You helped us. We grew organically and slowly. And that means a lot. So I don't mean this to sound like I'm at all bitter. I'm just trying to be honest. You know, I'm trying to be honest because I'm very grateful for what we do have and I love our community so much. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough because it makes me sad. What happened to the Red Mist podcast? I just didn't. That was on me. I just didn't have. I realized quite quickly I didn't have the time to dedicate to something again, another project, and yeah, that was I was the reason that stopped. I said that to Lee as well. How much money do you need to buy your house? I think it's about. I'd say about 180 grand maybe 200 grand, but somewhere about 180,000, I think, in euro. Yeah, somewhere around that. And hopefully I'll get there. We'll get there. You say things how it is, and I agree with everything you say. But this is what so if the club hear me giving out or saying stuff, I hope they know it's from a place of love, because you support and love the football club, and like anything else in life, you're critical of it when you think you need to be critical of it. Same as your kids or your brothers or your sisters or your mother or your father. You don't just have positive relationships with these people. If your child's misbehaved, you're going to say to your child, you've misbehaved, and you're going to pull them up on it. And I'd like to think it's the same with the football club, that they know everything we do comes from a place of love. Even if maybe it comes across as blunt sometimes, it's because we genuinely care about the club and want it to be successful. Lucas said, humble beginnings, Craig. I hope that you can achieve even more. You and your family, I hope the club recognises you. I'm Brazilian. I'm the Sparky who offered you help. Ah, nice. Thank you, dude. Yeah, look, I'm very proud that we might be able to buy the house in the next few months. We're in the process of it at the minute, just trying to make sure we can get the mortgage approved and stuff. And, 180,000 is no mansion. Like I said, it's a council house that we live in, and I don't want to move anywhere else. No matter where we are, I love living here. I love the city I live in. I love the people around me. I feel comfortable here. Passionate and angry are different. Some people don't accept it. So I had somebody tell me once, and I don't want to name the person because I don't want to bring any flack on them, but I had somebody tell me once, the club won't recognise you because you're not a serious person. And that really was cutting. Because I asked myself, how I'm not a serious person? I like to think I'm pretty fucking serious about what I do. But, that was what I was told by somebody, whose opinion, by the way, I held very highly. An hour's chat with any LFC legend alive or dead, who would it be? So there's two answers. If I was to be for work, John Aldridge. I've always said I'd love to interview John Aldridge on the channel because I love him. I loved him playing for Ireland, loved him playing for Liverpool, like him as a fella. And I think it would be a very, very good chat because he's very open and honest. So, yeah, John Aldridge would be the dream interview for the channel. If I was to just sit down, no cameras, probably Bobby Firmino, because I just love Bobby. And I think it'd be funny to get some stories out of him as well. So, yeah, from a personal level, with no cameras, Bobby. With cameras, Aldo. I'd love to interview John Aldridge. Yeah. But that's my dream interview for the channel. I pulled my calf on a match on Tuesday and I'm still recovering. If only I had the same help as these professional footballers. Dude, I did my shoulder in 3 weeks ago and I'm still struggling to get through it. So yeah, I wouldn't mind. Spencer said King Kenny. King Kenny would be great, but, can I count Klopp as a legend? Because I was just thinking players, but if I could count Klopp as a legend, as in, we're not talking about just playing staff, then Klopp would be the answer. I've said to you guys before how heartbroken we were that we couldn't go to the Klopp farewell show. That we didn't have an ability to buy tickets for it, and we'd reached out to the club to try and buy tickets. That was the one. That was sad for me because I'd love to have just been in the audience for Klopp's goodbye show, because Klopp, I'm an unashamed fanboy of Jurgen. But yeah, Aldo for a player, Klopp for a manager, and King Kenny. Here's the honest answer. I don't think I would do justice to an interview with King Kenny. I think the likes of the Anfield Rap would be far better placed to have an interview with Sir Kenny than I would, and I think they do a better job of it than I would. But Jurgen and Aldo, I think my personality traits would suit chatting with those guys. Just imagine the podcast with Craig, Klopp or Gerrard. Yeah, it would be fun. Yeah, it'd be fun. Prediction, said Petter, for Hungary versus Ireland. I think it's going to be a Hungarian win. And maybe a draw. Maybe a draw if they get a bit panicky. But I can't see Ireland getting the win that we need, unfortunately. I think the damage was done for us when we lost away from home. Not against Hungary, against Azerbaijan, was it? Or whoever the minnows in our group are. That's how little I care about international football. I don't really watch it that much. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the bye-bye. Armenia, sorry, yes, Armenia. When we lost 1-0 away from home, I think it was, to Armenia, that was the end of it. If you'd have won that, the group would have looked a bit differently right now. I was supposed to have a gig in my local tonight, said Chris Tatton Music, until the weather put a stop to it. Gutted. Yeah, it's miserable here, Chris, as well, dude. Yeah, and I hate these international breaks, but look, it's nearly over. As a Brazilian, I'll try my best to get Firmino to talk with you. No, if I can ask you for anything from a Brazilian, I'd be Lucas Leiva. Like I've said before. Like Bobby would be no cameras, but I'd love to interview Lucas Leiva because I named my son after Lucas Leiva and I love Lucas Leiva. I loved his attitude and everything he stood for at Liverpool. He's a great example of a player who went through difficult times, never gave up and just kept trying his best and just kept being positive. And I love that about Lucas. Right, folks. Pre-season tour with the team in the future. It's something we've thought about. Now we're at a point where the channel could afford it. We've thought about it. You know, I've always wanted to do it for the Australia or Asia pre-season tours because it's a part of the world I've never been to. So I'd love to follow Liverpool if they were going to, you know, Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, that kind of area. Yeah, that would be cool to do that someday. Me and Connor to go and do the pre-season tour. That would be amazing. I bet a lot of the old guard watch your show and agree with you. I don't know, Paul. You know, you often wonder who might watch, or who may know you exist. Even you do think about that occasionally. I remember when I met Jamie Webster for the first time. He said he'd watched the channel a bit, which was cool. That was really nice to hear. But I honestly don't know if any former players are out that have watched it. No idea. Haven't got a clue. Right, I'm going to say goodnight. I'm going to go grab some food. Like I said, I won't be back live until Monday, but don't worry, nothing's wrong. It's the planned weekend off. We'll be putting out videos over the next couple of days as well, so do keep an eye out for them. But before you do head off for your weekend, a couple of things. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, whatever you've got planned. If you can hit the like button for me before you head off, really appreciate that. And if you haven't subscribed, you know what to do. Yeah, appreciate all of you as always. Thank you so much for being in my life, for being part of my daily routines, and for believing in the channel. It means more than you'll ever know. We'll see you soon. Have a good one.